What if everything you thought you knew about the earliest chapters of human history on this continent was, in fact, incomplete, or even profoundly mistaken? For generations, the narrative of how the Americas were first populated has been presented as a settled science, a neat and tidy timeline etched into textbooks and documentaries, a courageous journey across a frozen land bridge, a slow but steady expansion, and the emergence of a distinct culture that marked the dawn of human presence in this vast new world. This story, often simplified for easy consumption, has become deeply ingrained in our collective understanding, shaping not just our view of ancient history but also our perception of indigenous origins and the very foundation of American heritage. It's a compelling tale, filled with the drama of survival against the elements and the ingenuity of early pioneers, and it has served as the bedrock for archaeological and anthropological studies for decades, with countless research papers, museum exhibits, and educational curricula reinforcing its core tenets. The idea of a single, relatively recent wave of migration, constrained by ice sheets and following a specific path, felt logical, almost inevitable, given the prevailing evidence. However, the most captivating mysteries are often those that lie hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right moment or the right pair of eyes to reveal their true complexity. And in a seemingly quiet, gypsum-dusted corner of New Mexico, within the ethereal, starkly beautiful landscape of White Sands National Park, such a mystery began to unfurl. It emerged not with the dramatic clang of ancient tools or the discovery of sprawling, forgotten settlements, but with the subtle, yet undeniably profound, imprint of life itself. This isn't merely about adding a footnote to an existing chapter or making a minor adjustment to a historical date. This is about tearing up the entire book and starting afresh, challenging the very core assumptions that have guided our understanding of humanity's audacious journey into the Western Hemisphere. The implications are staggering, not just for archaeologists and historians who dedicate their lives to piecing together the past, but for anyone who believes in the power of discovery to fundamentally reshape our perception of the past and, by extension, our present and future. Prepare to have your understanding of ancient America fundamentally rewired, as we delve into the surprising, irrefutable evidence that suggests the story we thought we knew was only a fraction of a much grander, more ancient, and infinitely more fascinating truth, one that has been patiently waiting beneath layers of sediment for its moment to be revealed. For the better part of a century, the reigning theory of how the Americas were populated was centered on a single, compelling idea: the Clovis culture. It was a narrative as clear as the ice-scoured landscape it described. The story began at the end of the Pleistocene epoch, when global climate change started to melt the colossal ice sheets that had locked up vast quantities of the world's water. As sea levels dropped, a broad land bridge, known as Beringia, emerged, connecting what is now Siberia and Alaska. This vast, tundra-like expanse became a pathway for migrating animals and, eventually, a new group of human inhabitants. These people, whom we now refer to as the Clovis people, were defined by their mastery of a revolutionary technology, the fluted stone projectile point. These exquisitely crafted spearheads, known as Clovis points, were uniquely shaped to be attached to a spear or a dart, making them highly effective tools for hunting the megafauna of the time, such as mammoths and bison. The discovery of these points, first found near Clovis, New Mexico, and then across the entire continent, provided a powerful archaeological signature. Their widespread distribution suggested a rapid and successful expansion. The theory posited that after crossing Beringia, these intrepid pioneers were initially blocked from moving south by two enormous ice sheets, the Laurentide and Cordilleran. It was only when these two glacial behemoths began to retreat, creating a narrow, ice-free corridor, down the center of North America, that the Clovis people could finally venture deep into the continent, leaving a trail of their distinctive tools behind them. This timeline, placing their arrival at around 13,500 years ago, was not just a hypothesis, it was a cornerstone of American archaeology, a story repeated in classrooms and textbooks as the definitive first chapter of human history in the Americas. It seemed to fit perfectly, explaining everything from the distribution of artifacts to the timing of migrations. But what if this perfectly woven tapestry of evidence, logic, and certainty was hiding a secret far older than anyone ever imagined? Nestled in the remote and breathtaking landscape of south-central New Mexico lies White Sands National Park, a surreal expanse of dazzling white gypsum dunes that ripple across the desert floor like frozen waves. This isn't merely a picturesque backdrop, it's a geological marvel, a unique environment where ancient lakebeds and wetlands once thrived, only to be gradually buried and perfectly preserved by shifting sands and mineral-rich waters for millennia. It was within this extraordinary setting, a place where time seems to slow and the earth itself holds deep secrets, that a groundbreaking discovery began to emerge, not from the traditional systematic digs of archaeological sites, but from the subtle, relentless erosion of the very ground. Researchers, meticulously surveying the ancient lakebed, began to spot faint, yet unmistakable, depressions. These weren't random marks, they were clearly patterned, ordered, and profoundly familiar. As more layers of sediment were carefully brushed away, an astonishing panorama of ancient life unfolded before their eyes. What they uncovered was not just isolated evidence, but a veritable tapestry of tracks, a preserved highway of the past. There were countless human footprints, remarkably clear, revealing not just the general shape of a foot, but sometimes even the individual toes, the arch, and the heel, offering an intimate glimpse into the very gait of people who walked this earth countless millennia ago. These were not mere indentations, they were direct, unassailable evidence of physical presence, a moment frozen in time as if the individuals had just stepped away. But what truly set this discovery apart, elevating it from merely fascinating to undeniably world-changing, was the company these human tracks kept. Interspersed with and sometimes even directly crossing over the human imprints were the colossal, unmistakable depressions left by the largest land mammals ever to walk the earth, the majestic mammoths. Their vast, circular prints, some nearly 2 feet in diameter, spoke of immense power and presence, anchoring these human wanderers firmly within a primeval ecosystem. And the mammoths were not alone, the researchers also found the tracks of other iconic Ice Age giants, including the distinctive drag marks of giant ground sloths, whose immense claws left unmistakable trails, alongside the tracks of dire wolves and saber-toothed cats, painting a vibrant, dynamic picture of a thriving prehistoric world where humans coexisted with these formidable beasts. This was not a collection of scattered bones or discarded tools, but a direct, frozen record of individuals moving, living, and interacting within their environment, providing an unparalleled window into an ancient world previously only imagined. This living diary, inscribed in mud and now solidified in gypsum, promised to reveal something truly extraordinary, hinting at a connection between humanity and these titanic beasts that was far more intimate than previously conceived, setting the stage for a revelation that would send shockwaves through the scientific community. The breathtaking discovery of those fossilized footprints in the gypsum sands was, in itself, a remarkable finding, but the true magnitude of their importance lay not in their visual detail, but in the unseen data locked within the sediment itself. To accurately determine the age of the prints, the researchers turned to a meticulous process of scientific dating. Fortunately, the ancient lakebed provided the perfect context. In the exact same sediment layers that held the human and megafauna tracks, a bounty of ancient plant material, specifically tiny grains of pollen and fossilized seeds from an aquatic plant known as Ruppia serosa, had been preserved. Using state-of-the-art radiocarbon dating techniques on these seeds, which had been growing at the very moment the tracks were made, the scientists could precisely pinpoint the time frame. The initial results were so extraordinary that the team proceeded with extreme caution, rerunning the tests multiple times and even using different dating methods to cross-verify their findings. When the numbers came back time and again, they were not just surprising, they were truly paradigm-shifting. The footprints were not 13,000 years old, or even 15,000 years old. They were between 21,000 and 23,000 years old. This single, irrefutable number shattered the foundation of the Clovis first theory. It meant that people were not just present on the American continent before the ice-free corridor opened up, but they were here a full 10 millennia earlier than previously believed. The very ice sheets that were supposed to have been the impassable barrier for the first Americans were still at their absolute peak, locking up vast amounts of land. The discovery was a direct, undeniable contradiction to a century of archaeological consensus, forcing a complete reevaluation of every hypothesis about when and how humanity first came to inhabit the Western Hemisphere. It wasn't merely a new piece of evidence, it was the entire jigsaw puzzle falling apart, revealing a completely different picture than the one we had meticulously pieced together for generations. The silence that followed the publication of these results was deafening, as a new, more complex, and far older narrative began to take shape. With the Clovis first theory effectively disproven by the stunning age of the White Sands footprints, the archaeological community was left grappling with a new, profoundly difficult question: if the first Americans weren't following an ice-free corridor 13,500 years ago, then how, and by what route, did they arrive? The answer now points to a far more ancient and daring journey, one that requires a complete re-evaluation of the skills and technology these early humans possessed. The new evidence strongly supports the notion of a coastal migration, where small groups of people traveled not by land, but by boat, hugging the now submerged coastlines of Beringia and continuing south along the western edge of North America. This theory posits that the immense ice sheets, while blocking passage inland, did not necessarily prevent travel by sea. These pioneers would have been adept mariners, navigators, and resourceful hunter-gatherers, living off the bountiful marine life and coastal resources, rather than solely relying on the terrestrial megafauna for sustenance. The idea of them possessing the necessary watercraft and navigation skills for such a perilous journey pushes back our understanding of early human capabilities and challenges the long-held view that they were a land-based population simply following a path of least resistance. While direct archaeological evidence of this coastal migration is incredibly difficult to find, as the ancient coastlines are now thousands of feet beneath the ocean's surface, the White Sands footprints provide the irrefutable chronological proof that such a journey must have taken place, or that some other yet unknown route was traversed. This monumental shift in understanding forces us to reimagine the first Americans not as a homogeneous group of spear-wielding big-game hunters, but as diverse, adaptable, and technologically sophisticated pioneers who navigated an entirely different world, a world where the land and the ice and the sea conspired in ways we are only just beginning to comprehend. The story of human arrival in the Americas, once a simple tale of following a single path, has now become a far more complex and captivating saga of resilience and ingenuity in the face of unimaginable obstacles. While the scientific dates have rewritten the timeline of human arrival, the most profound and emotionally resonant aspect of the White Sands discovery lies not in the numbers, but in the intimate details etched into the ground. Unlike the fossilized bones of animals or the discarded stone tools of ancient artisans, these footprints are not relics of the dead, they are the direct, tangible imprints of life in motion. As we gaze upon them, we are looking at a single moment frozen in time, a silent testament to the rhythm of an ancient day. What is perhaps most striking about the human tracks is the demographic they represent. Contrary to expectations of a group of adult male hunters, many of the prints belong to children and teenagers, their smaller feet tracing paths across the ancient mud. One sequence of tracks tells a particularly poignant story. A teenager's prints show a quicker pace, suggesting a brisk walk, while a second, smaller set of tracks is noticeably absent. The subtle, deeper imprints of the teenager's feet suggest they may have been carrying a baby or a young child, a powerful image of care and family moving through a challenging environment. Other tracks reveal a sense of play, a child's footprints moving at a different, more erratic pace, perhaps skipping or running with a youthful energy that transcends the millennia. Still more tracks reveal a fascinating dialogue between humans and the megafauna they coexisted with. A set of human prints follows directly in the footsteps of a giant sloth, a path of least resistance across the mud. This wasn't a confrontational moment of hunter and prey, but rather an instance of two species sharing the same landscape, their paths converging and diverging in a silent and unwritten history. These imprints are more than just archaeological finds, they are a direct window into the humanity of these ancient people. They give a voice to a population previously only defined by their tools and bones, reminding us that they were not just historical figures in a textbook, but individuals who lived, played, cared for their young, and navigated a world filled with colossal beasts, their daily lives a remarkable blend of pragmatism and resilience. It is this profound connection to their simple, daily existence that truly makes the White Sands footprints a treasure unlike any other. The White Sands footprints are a powerful conclusion to one story and an exciting introduction to another. For a century, the narrative of the first Americans was a straightforward tale of a single, well-documented migration that began after the ice melted. It was a comfortable, logical history, neatly contained within a few millennia. But these simple, unassuming tracks have completely dismantled that certainty. They stand as irrefutable evidence that our understanding of the past was far too limited, and that humanity's presence on this continent is a story of incredible ancient resilience, stretching back into the very heart of the Ice Age. This discovery is a monument to the humility of science, a reminder that a single, unexpected piece of evidence can force us to abandon long-held beliefs and embrace a truth that is far more complex and compelling. It has sparked a revolution in archaeological thought, prompting researchers to revisit and re-examine other sites that were previously dismissed as too old to be legitimate. The search for our origins is no longer confined to a single, narrow theory. It has expanded to encompass a multitude of potential routes, a rich tapestry of adaptation, and a deeper appreciation for the ingenuity of our ancient ancestors. The new narrative is not about having all the answers, but about understanding that the questions themselves are more profound than we ever thought. Who were these people? Where did they come from before their journey to this ancient lake? What other evidence of their lives lies buried, waiting to be found? The mystery is far from solved, it has only just begun. And as we stand at the edge of this new historical landscape, we are reminded that the ground beneath our feet holds secrets thousands of years old, patiently waiting for the right moment to emerge and tell their story, forever changing our perception of who we are and where we came from. The footprints, left by a few ancient travelers, have left a mark on our collective knowledge that will last for generations to come.